At 33, she achieved the exact life she had planned at 22. That should have felt like arrival. Instead, it felt like maintenance. She had followed the formula carefully. Study something practical. Enter a stable industry. Avoid unnecessary volatility. Build savings early. Do not chase prestige if it comes with fragility. It was a disciplined strategy. And it worked. She became a financial analyst at a large, conservative firm. The kind of company that had survived multiple recessions without headlines. Predictable earnings, predictable promotions, predictable culture. Her first manager once told her, "If you stay here long enough, you will always land on your feet." She stayed. By 30, she had no debt. By 31, she had purchased a modest but well-located apartment. By 32, she had been promoted into a managerial role overseeing a small team. Her income was not extraordinary. It was steady. Steady felt intelligent. When markets fluctuated, her firm remained calm. When startups surged and collapsed, she watched from a distance. When friends changed jobs abruptly, she listened, nodded, and returned to her structured calendar. Her life did not spike. It did not crash either. Over time, she began to notice something subtle about her professional growth. It was vertical, not expansive. Each year, her responsibilities increased within the same framework. Larger budgets, larger oversight, slightly larger teams. But the framework never changed. Her skills deepened. They did not diversify. She became excellent at navigating one system, exceptional at understanding its internal logic, politics, incentives. Outside of it, she was less certain. That realization arrived gradually. One afternoon, she interviewed a candidate for her team. Someone 2 years younger, coming from a smaller, more volatile firm. The candidate spoke about restructuring entire financial models during a downturn, about renegotiating vendor contracts personally, about building reporting systems from scratch. The experiences sounded chaotic. They also sounded adaptive. After the interview, she returned to her desk and reviewed her own last 5 years. She had optimized efficiency, reduced risk, improved internal reporting accuracy, streamlined processes, all valuable. But none of it required her to operate without a safety net. Her firm absorbed shocks collectively. Mistakes were diluted. Underperformance was managed gradually. There was protection built in the structure. She had built her career inside that protection. At 34, she received another promotion, Director of Financial Planning, larger compensation package, long-term incentive plan tied to company performance. Her parents called it security for life. She understood what they meant, but she also understood something they did not see. Her compensation was now heavily tied to one institution's stability. Her reputation was increasingly associated with one brand. Her expertise was deeply embedded in one operating model. If the company thrived, she thrived. If it stagnated, she stagnated. If it declined, she would have to prove her value in a market might not recognize her as easily as her internal colleagues did. She began modeling scenarios privately. What if the industry consolidated? What if automation reduced the need for large financial planning teams? What if leadership changed and priorities shifted away from her department? Her emergency fund could protect her for months, but her professional identity had limited portability. She had traded income volatility for identity concentration. At 35, she was invited to join an executive strategy retreat. Senior leaders discussed long-term positioning, digital transformation, cost optimization, workforce efficiency. The language was neutral, but one slide stayed with her: redundancy reduction initiatives. It was presented as a rational operational adjustment. She understood the logic. She also understood the implication. Organizations optimize for survival, not loyalty. That night, She reviewed her LinkedIn profile. It read like a decade-long devotion to one ecosystem. There is a form of success that looks like stability from the outside. Inside, it can resemble narrowing optionality. She did not resent her choices. They had given her peace of mind, financial order, the absence of panic, but she began noticing the invisible cost of that peace. She had become risk-averse in subtle ways beyond her job. She delayed launching personal projects because they did not have guaranteed outcomes. She postponed exploring new industries because she did not want to dilute her focus. She chose incremental improvements over transformational changes. Her tolerance for uncertainty had quietly decreased. Stability, compounded over time, can recalibrate your nervous system. You start to perceive manageable volatility as threat. One evening, she ran projections comparing her current compensation trajectory with alternative career paths in adjacent industries. Her growth curve was smooth. Others were volatile, some lower in early years, some dramatically higher in later ones. She noticed something uncomfortable. Her curve was predictable, but it was flattening. Not sharply, gradually. She had optimized for downside protection during her 20s. In her mid-30s, the trade-off was becoming visible. Upside requires exposure. Exposure requires discomfort. She had insulated herself from discomfort so effectively that she had also insulated herself from acceleration. At work, she started observing how younger colleagues viewed her. They respected her. They all saw her as permanent. Permanent is not the same as powerful. Permanent suggests durability. Power suggests mobility. She realized that if she wanted to pivot, the longer she waited, the harder it would become. Not because she lacked skill, but because she had built an identity around predictability. Reinvention becomes heavier when you carry a stable title. She did not resign impulsively. She did not announce dissatisfaction. Instead, she began introducing controlled volatility into her life. She took on cross-functional projects outside her department. She enrolled in advanced technical courses unrelated to her current role. She invested a portion of her savings into ventures that made her uncomfortable. Not reckless amounts, symbolic ones. Enough to remind herself that exposure does not equal collapse. Her colleagues noticed subtle changes. She asked sharper questions in meetings, challenged assumptions about cost-cutting, proposed investments in uncertain but scalable initiatives. Some leaders resisted. Some listened. She felt something reactivating, not ambition exactly, but elasticity, the capacity to stretch beyond the familiar. At 36, she stands at a quiet intersection. She still holds the stable role. She still earns the predictable income. But she no longer confuses stability with permanence. She understands now that financial comfort can conceal strategic vulnerability. That predictable growth can mask long-term compression. That safety, when extended too far, can slowly reduce your range. She does not regret the path she chose. It gave her structure. It gave her confidence. It gave her time. What she has not yet decided is whether she will continue optimizing for protection or whether she will begin optimizing for expansion. And she is aware that the longer she waits to answer that question, the more the answer might quietly decide itself.